Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your natal black moon Lilith in the sign of Taurus. Taurus rules the second house of earned income and the possessions that you own, as well as your self-esteem. Venus is the ruler of Taurus, and so with Venus we think of pleasure. There's a sensual component to Taurus because Taurus is an earth sign. So it's going to be connected to the things of this world. And with Black Moon Lilith, what we could be talking about is the places in life where you feel traumatized. There is like this suggestion that the influence of Lilith is similar to Pluto, and it does seem to go that way, but there's also an element of rebellion. It's like where you draw the line, where you're refusing to allow other people to control you or define you. And in this area, it has to do with perhaps, unless it's self-esteem related, your possessions. Money. What does money mean for you? Because we have to admit, especially those who live in Western countries in the world, that it's not just about survival when we're talking about making money, that there is this other aspect connected to it. And it doesn't surprise me that self-esteem is connected to the second house, because that's exactly what has happened, where we've gone from earning money simply to be able to stay alive, but turning it into something that is proof that we're okay, that we are successful enough, that we are deserving enough, which is probably why advertisers have tapped into that and kind of try to manipulate people into thinking that they need certain things in order to prove to others that they have arrived. They might not say it in those ways, but just, or to be accepted by other people. So, and that has to do with self-esteem, obviously. So, because Lilith in the second, well, I'm saying second house, I should say Lilith in Taurus is about, can be about possessions. The second house can be about possessions. Lilith here can indicate that you are very possessive. Now, when we say the word possessive, usually we're thinking about relationships. For sure, that can be the case. But even with the things that you own right now, it can lead to a hoarding mentality. So when somebody hoards and they have a hard time getting rid of things, and they feel like they feel compelled to keep everything that they buy, I would say on a deeper level, that is fear based, that there is some fear of lack. And likewise, when somebody is possessive of the person that they're with, their partner, but it can even be a family member or friend, that there is fear with that as well, that they're afraid that they're not going to be number one in that person's life, or that somebody else is going to come in and usurp them, kind of take over, and that person will be more interested in spending time with someone else than them. So fear can definitely creep into this side of life. And sometimes there might be a reason for this that has to do with earlier on in life. And it does seem, from what I'm reading here from advancedastrology.com, that it's more like somebody, shaming the individual about wanting things. But I really do believe that it can also be the circumstances that you are raised in, especially if you have, maybe you have Saturn there, or um, there are other indicators in your chart of growing up, or Saturn even in the first house or in the fourth house, where it could have been that you had to lead a life of austerity and didn't have many material resources. The conditioning by people around you may have been based on that, because sometimes when people grow up with not that much and they want more um, out of life, other people can kind of be very critical about that, because either it's the crabs in the barrel mentality of like, if I haven't succeeded, you can't succeed, but also the sense that we're not deserving of these things. And sometimes it can lead to over materialism based on the same types of environment where there was deprivation. It can overemphasize the materialism in life. If you live in an area where there is affluence and old money, as they call it, you will see that people who have been given rather substantial inheritances, for instance, that a lot of times, if it's been passed down through multiple generations, that they may have nice cars, but they do not have cars that scream, I'm wealthy. They don't have, sports cars or those kinds of really fancy luxury cars. Um, they are more understated because they have nothing to prove. So the overemphasis on materialism can be present here, the overindulgence, and also food wise. Because shame can be an overarching theme with Lilith, it is possible that um, material possessions are things that you feel ashamed to own. And it's a very interesting thing if you happen to be in the spiritual world for some reason. Maybe you grew up in like a religious home where that was really emphasized, that you were not supposed to have anything other than what you truly need. And if you become an adult with those same values, even if you change your spiritual beliefs to something from more of an organized religion to spirituality, something like the law of attraction can be very foreign to you, because the idea of deserving material resources and even calling them into your existence may um, really create a lot of guilt within you and confusion, because you might have been raised totally differently to shun those things. And it's possible that it comes from within yourself, and um, it can be quite complicated, because there definitely is an argument to be made for um, excessive consumption of material goods. And I don't have this placement, but I honor this idea of, recycling, reusing, and things like that. So it can sometimes be a fine line where it goes too much into one direction. I think the way that you test this is if something comes into your reality, or there's some kind of opportunity that could um, give you a nice chunk of change, are you welcoming of it, or do you tense up? Does it make you feel uncomfortable? Because if it makes you feel uncomfortable, chances are you do have guilt attached to material resources. But if you simply are wanting to make money and you don't necessarily want to spend it, even if you're a little bit fear based about spending money, at least you're willing to welcome it into your reality. So there's like a slight difference with that. But in some cases, a person, it's like kind of like, I think this is where Pluto, the comparison with Pluto is great, is that sense of extremism in a person's point of view. So either being a complete um, ascetic where you just totally reject anything material, or just completely self-indulgent, and that it's very hard for you to walk that middle path. They also mentioned with food that this can manifest, and they said you could be possessive about your food. And I thought about, people, you talk about animals with their food dish and not coming, growling, if the dog that growls if somebody comes near their food dish. But yeah, so maybe there are situations that create problems with your attitude towards food, where it becomes your enemy and then your comfort. That you use it to comfort yourself, but then um, if you have overindulged, then you go between two extremes. They didn't necessarily mention that type of situation, but I could see how that could occur, especially with if somebody is experiencing a fluctuation in weight and they can't really have a balanced attitude towards food. Because one of the things that's really difficult when it comes to moderating food intake is that we actually need food. We can't live without it. So it's something that we have to contend with. And if a person feels um, imbalanced here, they can go from one extreme to the other, and they're doing it, like, for instance, for dieting, losing weight, and whatnot. The other thing too is with people, they mentioned about sex, and an example of why it kind of, sometimes these sites, they say something but they don't always cover all the bases. And they were talking about loving sex, and they said Lilith and Taurus people love sex, and they are often promiscuous and they like adventures. They can be quite possessive of their partner. But what about the opposite? Could there be people who feel guilt about sex, and because it is a form of pleasure? And I would say yes, but they didn't mention that. So I would say that that could be the case as well. And I even wonder if people with Lilith in certain houses where it deals with material matters, if they can go from one extreme to the other, of indulging and then depriving themselves of those things. And I would say yes, especially if there is some kind of religious belief that they are trying to adhere to, that is keeping them in line at certain times in their life, making them feel guilty about certain things. And so they kind of repent and they go back into that deprivation mode, to kind of atone for their quote unquote sins. And then they have to go back, and become overindulgent because they can't stay, because they're living in an extreme situation. So they tend to yo yo like that. But even if we talk about the rebellion that Lilith can symbolize, if a person has felt controlled by material resources in their life, maybe with their family of origin, they may seek to earn money as a source of freedom and autonomy. And so it becomes very important on that level. But anyway, that's what I have for you, and I hope that this resonated. If you would like a private reading, please click on the link below to find out more details about the kind of readings I offer. I'm at rainamoonastrology.com. Take care. Bye.